Okay, so now we're just going to cover a few things out of maintain. So we're talking about maintaining the quality of perishable items. So that could be things in the freezer, in the fridge, okay, and so forth. Perishable items are those items that require temperature control. So definitely meats in the fridge, vegetables, or bacon, ham, sliced salamis and stuff like that. So I've got a few items here. First of all, I'll just show you. We've got a selection of vegetables here. Just prep, okay? They can be placed in disposable containers, okay, with a label, okay? So what the item is: tomato, the date it was prepped or it was set up. Got some parsley here. So it's just a matter of writing the date that it was prepped, so the 14th, by whom, Dan, what the product was, vegetable offcuts, and you could also put a use by date. You could write use by, so this is an example, the use by date of, say, the 17th, about 3 days, okay? Here, so we've said that someone's forgotten to wrap this, okay, so we're going to wrap it. I know what it is, okay. Grab another piece of tape. You may have label stickers, like specific label stickers for this job, but a lot of people just use masking tape. Okay, so we know this is prepped garlic, all right. So prepped garlic. And I know I prepped it yesterday. No, I know I prepped it. Yeah, I prepped it yesterday, which was the 17th. Today's the 19th. I prepped it. You could write the use by date on it as well. Okay. We know what the product is. We know when we prepped it, and we know who's accountable for it, and that's me. Okay. Chopped parsley, date it was prepped, who by, and so forth. Got a couple of other examples here. So we have a bottle of oyster sauce that we used for one of the dishes on Wednesday. Okay, so we know this has been opened because I know I opened it. So for perishable items, okay, this needs to go in the fridge now, okay, because before it gets opened, okay, it's fine to keep in your dry store facility, okay, but once you've opened it, okay, you write opened on 17th by Dan, okay, and the use by date on that, well, use by date on that would probably be a month, but there is already a use by date on that product before it's opened. So use by date that's on there before it's opened maybe 2020 or 2021. So anywhere between now and that time you can open that product, but as soon as you open that product, I reckon, depending on what it is, it has a use by date of like, I'd say a month, okay? As long as it's not contaminated with anything or anything like that. A little bit different when it comes to meats and so forth, okay? Here's an example here. I've got some chipolatas here, okay? So I've written chipolata sausages, okay? The date that it was prepped and opened with a D, Dan, okay? I've taken this out of the freezer, okay? But that was the date that I put it in the freezer. Okay, I'm going to put it back in the freezer. But here is a product that's been taken out of the freezer to be defrosted, okay? So it's been taken out of the freezer. I've just written defrosted, okay? What we can actually do, it's not very clear on what's been written there, okay? So we can write a better one. All right, so I'm just trying to emphasize when someone's not really clear on what they've written, okay? We want it to be nice and clear, okay? So we can say defrosted ham on, today's the 18th, okay? And what we can do, so the guys in the cafe, they want to defrost this product, okay? So what we can do is put that on top of there, and so it doesn't get tarnished or lost, we can just wrap over it, all right, so that doesn't get lost. So the label is clear, okay? So I was just doing that for the guys, all right? So we'll put that back into the fridge for them because they're defrosting it because they obviously need it for tomorrow for cafe and so forth. This can go back in the fridge, okay? Another thing I'd like to talk about is a product here, okay? So this has become a perishable item, okay? It was ordered, purchased, it arrived, and it arrived broken, okay? So we're using this one as a really good example, okay? The container is broken. Obviously, maybe some shards of plastic have fallen in there and contaminated the product, so obviously we can't use it. So I've written a little label on it, return to supplier ASAP, 16th of the 1st, 2019, okay? Notified the chef, okay? Told Vanessa, spoke to the chef Mohammed as well, and this will get returned when the next supply comes in, okay? It gets written on the invoice, okay? So the next person can see that it's been highlighted on the invoice so we can get a replacement product or a credit note, okay? So that's just a really good example of a breakage, okay? And how to manage these kinds of things, okay? Another really good example I want to show you is how to wrap up herbs correctly, okay? So got some basil here, okay? Not the freshest of basil, okay? So what you do is you get a fresh chucks, wet it with cold water, okay? And your herbs will stay a lot more crisper, a lot more fresher for longer, okay? And then wrap it up entirely, okay? Stem poking out's fine, okay? And then what you do, what I actually do is I write on it, so the date was the 16th that it arrived. You can just write Basil, Dan, you can neatly write it there, stick it on there, and then you can do this, wrap it up. And next time you wrap it, you can wrap it up and you don't have to redo the sticky label, okay? That's why it's clear, it's visible, okay? Then you can neatly stack it in with all your other herbs, okay? You see the other ones have all been labelled, okay? You can do that. Some people store them in a foam box, like just lightly wrapped in a chucks, but this is the way we do it. And then it can get stored and put back into the designated area, this being a very small fridge, okay? And we can put that away. So when we look at a fridge, everything should be labelled. Everything should be put into the correct areas. You can see here we've got couverture chocolate that's been labelled and dated. We've got some other items up here: chocolate sauce, zabagnoni that that Vanessa made the other day. She's labelled it. Okay, down some dates on that. Okay, and we talk about food segregation with perishable items like meats and poultry, okay? If you have seafood and so forth, obviously seafood gets put on the bottom part of the shelf, okay? It's a perishable item and gets labelled and dated and everything. Same with meats. If those sausages were in the fridge to be used up in the next day or so, okay? Again, on the bottom shelf. Any ready-to-eat items like cooked chicken or sliced chicken that was going to be used for sandwiches or something like that would be stored above those items, okay? You don't want to store fish or raw meats above those ready-to-eat items because they can potentially leak onto your ready-to-eat foods. So ready-to-eat foods always on top. Another really good one is eggs, okay? Keep them in the box, all right, in their trays. We store our eggs down here. We don't have any at the moment because we don't really need any because we're filming. But yeah, eggs would sit down on the bottom. Why? Okay, because if anything, if you were to store them at a higher level or a higher shelf, if anything falls on them, smash your eggs, so forth, make a mess as well. Being at the lowest point of the refrigerator, that way they can't tarnish any other foods. So in previous units, we talked about food segregation and so forth. And in relation to this unit, okay, we're talking about dairy products and so forth, and we need to segregate. Well, we need to segregate all of our food, okay? So what we mean by that is segregate it by putting all of our fruits and vegetables together, okay? Wrapping up heads of celery, iceberg lettuce. If we were to peel those carrots, we could peel them, prep and peel them, and then soak them in cold water, okay? That would help keep their crispness. Same with the celery, you can do that too. Celery, you could prep that celery, chop it into stems, long stems, wash it, and then keep it in a bucket with cold water as well. Then we've got our dairy products, okay? Our milk, our cream, and so forth, our butter, our cheeses, and so forth. And we segregate everything, keep our butter together, keep all our cheeses together. We're quite limited in how much products we have at the moment because we don't really have any classes. But the reason why we segregate, okay, we can't keep, say, items like garlic, okay, really strong flavours like garlic and stuff, we can't keep them near cheeses and stuff because that flavour will penetrate into the cheese and so forth, okay. So it's not very a good idea, particularly really strong smelling cheeses, okay, like Blue Vein and all that kind of stuff, okay. Should try and keep things relatively separate. Making sure that we're stock controlling, okay. We're using up items. We're not wasting items. If we have leftover fruits or so forth, or peaches, we could make a fruit compote or something and put it on the specials board with a breakfast dish or a dessert, okay? So it's all about making sure that we're using up products as well and not wasting them and throwing things out, okay? Particularly through the winter months and stuff, you've got offcuts of vegetables, you know. Here is a really good example of bits and pieces. You know, if you had more of this kind of stuff, you could utilise these items and make a very basic minestrone soup, for instance. Add a few more carrots, some celery and stuff, cook up some macaroni or some pasta, all right, and make a minestrone. Pretty simple, really cost effective. You're not wasting the products, okay, and you're making a good profit margin there with a really low food cost percentage. So talking about temperature control of perishable items as well. Okay, when we're heating food and serving it, we need to check the temperature of the food using a temperature probe. Okay, so obviously we make sure the probe is clean and sanitized using a sanitizing wipe, and we check the temperature of the product. Say we cook some chicken or so forth. Check the temperature, make sure it's above 72 degrees, okay? So hot food that we want to serve has to be above 72 degrees. As far as poultry goes, 72 degrees. Hot food that we want to serve, I would make sure that we've cooked it and we've heated it up to 75 degrees, okay? And then we have to make sure if we're holding that food to temperature, it needs to be it needs to stay at a temperature above 60 degrees, okay? So if we heat food up, we check it, and it needs to be 75 degrees, okay? But if we're holding the food in bain-marie, it needs to be above 60, okay? Talking food, perishable items in the fridge, okay? Or in the cool room, okay? The fridge needs to be running at between 0 and 5 degrees. So this food needs to stay in the fridge, okay? And needs to be in that temperature range, okay? When we're talking about our dry store, okay, foods need to be, and this is approximate, okay, between 10 and 20 degrees, okay? in a perfect world, okay? During these hot periods, it's really hard. You don't want any, you don't want direct sunlight in your dry store, okay? Try and limit the natural light so the room doesn't heat up, okay? And then we talk about pest control as well, okay? And with pest control, you have to make sure, particularly in a dry store, well, whole kitchen, you need to make sure there's no holes in the walls that would lead out into the outdoor environment to encourage these pests to come in. And basically that's what we've been doing all day. We've been cleaning, okay, making sure the floors are all tidy and clean so we're not leaving any food stuffs around on the ground or any crumbs, because that's just going to encourage pests to come into the building and feed off our mess. So the cleaner we are, okay, we're going to discourage pests from coming into the building, okay? And obviously you have to have a pest control system in place, okay? Obviously all your cleaning and so forth, making sure that doors, windows, and everything are closed. Also have a regular pest control visits by the department. So they come in, check all your baits and so forth, make sure there's no evidence of pests around, no cockroaches or mice or rats or things like that. They give you a full report. Usually do it on a monthly basis, okay? And they'll come in and they'll check your business. Usually they tell you verbally what the go is. They'll give you a summary of what the building and how the building is, okay? And tell you whether there's any evidence of pests in that and what you need to do, okay? So usually it's just maintain a really strict cleaning schedule and make sure everything is clean and tidy. Then they give you a report. You file it into your food safety program, okay? We're calling it a kitchen resources folder, but it's a food safety program, okay? Where you record all your temperatures, okay? And you also record all your temperatures of your fridges, freezers, and using your probe or your temperature probes, you can check your fridges, freezers are running at the correct temperature. Fridges, as I said before, 0 to 5 degrees. Freezer, okay, they need to be running between -18 and -24 degrees. And you need to record this information in your food safety program twice a day, okay, in the AM and the PM. So the best time to do it is in the morning when you get in, all right? Record your temperatures, your fridges, freezers, and so forth in all parts of the actual kitchen and front of house area, okay? Record the temperature, okay? If it's out of its temperature zone, then put in some critical control points, okay? And manage it. If the fridges are broken down or your freezer's broken down, all right, you need to take all those items out